Hello guys and welcome back to another tutorial. So in this tutorial is going to be about walk and beam system, and I got the volts, 289 volts, and 36% of them were on the walk beam, and now I'm going to do it. So basically here we have our empty project. It's not empty because I have some custom settings here, but don't worry about that. And I have the default code, the default locomotion, and if you go to the animation blueprint, this is what I have on my default locomotion. So let's go to the event graph, and this is the gets the character references, and I only have the jump here. So this is my third person character. And all right, let's go for the code. Let's go for the tutorial. So here we don't have a beam yet, so let's make one. So let's select any block here, as you can find on your default map, and let's browse to the asset, and let's create a new blueprint out of this static mesh here. So I'm going to right click on it, go to asset actions, and create a blueprint using this. So I'm going to name my blueprint to be BP beam. Hit save, and here you have our blueprint static mesh. Let's just compile, save, and browse to the asset. Here you have it. So now let's drag and drop, and let's make our beam. Let's do a quick level prototyping here. All right, there you go, very nice. The reason why I created this blueprint specifically for this beam here is because I want to get the reference of it inside our character's blueprint. So let's go inside our character's blueprint, and here we have, and here we go, and here we have, and here let's create a variable in event called event tick. This is an event that gets triggered every second, so it's going to get executed 60 times. 60 times. It's going to get executed 60 times in a minute, in a second, I don't know, in 60 seconds. Fuck, whatever. Here on the event tick, we're going to get a branch, and let's actually first create two variables called can walk beam question mark. Then we're going to create another variable called is walking on beam. So I have two variables, one for allowing the character, oh, can walk on beam, yes or no, yes. Then if yes, then we are going to be walking on the beam, okay. So here we're going to drag and drop the can walk on beam, get it, plug that into the condition, compile, save, there you go. Let me see what's one of the first things that I'm going to do. Let's actually get the mesh of the character, so just drag and drop it. And let's get socket location. This is going to get the socket location of the mesh, but as we have set none here, then it's going to get the location of the character more or less right here. This is the location that I want the line trace to be in. Actually, it's going to be a capsule trace, and it's going to be right here on the below the character. So we're going to get the information of the location of that, and we're going to get the capsule trace for objects. If it's true, if the character can walk on beam, then we're going to execute this capsule trace for objects. And the values here is going to be very simple. Just gotta plug that into the return value, then we can see how that looks like in the world after. We're going to promote object types to a variable, so promote it to a variable and promote it to a variable. Also the draw debug type. So we're going to basically drag them on the bottom here. And here on this arrow, you can choose the trace color, the default trace color. So I'm going to choose white here. So be sure to select here on the object types, the default value. I'm going to compile it first. And here on the object types, I'm going to choose to add the new axis. Add a new element. And here I'm going to select word static. So it's going to identify word static objects. So let's compile, save, and here on the drag debug type, I like to let it to be one frame because we are executing it on the event tick, right? And Here in the radius, I set the value to be 7. And here on the half height, it's going to be 33. And that's all you gotta do here. So let's actually test it out. I think we can let this value to be true by default. So take this on and let's test in the world. So as you can see here, this is the perfect location that I found that is better for us to be identifying beams. And here, as you can see on the bottom, it's going to be touching the beam. So that's what I want. And in case the character falls off, for example, here. So in case the character falls off, then I want to set the simulate physics. So it's going to simulate the physics of the body. And that's going to be very cool. So it's almost like the character falls from the beam. So here on the return value, when this capsule trace for objects identifies the beam, then I want to get it to a branch. Then if it's true, then I want to get all actors of a class. And I want to select BP beam. So what's that's basically going to do? This is going to get all actors of a class that is, here as you can see, it's the level world. So you can basically put multiple blueprints like this ones. And as you can see here on the outliner, we have multiple BP beams here. We have BP, the first one that I've added here. I have added the second one and so on. So I have multiples of them. That's why I need to get all actors of a class. So it's going to get all existing actors, all existing blueprints of the same actor. And it's going to store that into a array. Now we're going to drag off this array and get a loop, a for each loop, and plug that in here. So what's basically we want to do? What do we want to do with this for each loop? What is this? This is too advanced, but in reality it's not. Basically, I want to check for every single one existing beams in the world for each tick, and get the reference and say if this reference equals to the beam that I am currently walking on. Then, if this is true, then I want to walk balance. So that's basically it, guys. That's basically it. So we're going to turn this variable to true. Right? And we're going to be walking on the beam. So if we get back to our animation blueprint, and here out of the third person character, how much you get is walking balancing. It's walking on beam. Yeah, it's walking on beam. And we're going to promote it to a variable. Plug that in there. File save. And going back to the default locomotion, when we are walking, then I want to get this walk beam. Let me get the animation. I think it's beam forward loop. Yeah, this one. I'm going to drag and drop it here and plug that into there. And I'm going to double click on this, on the condition of the transition. And I'm going to drag and drop this walking beam to here. And if this walking beam is true, then we can enter the transition of allowing the character to be playing this animation here. Make sure it is looping, and this walking beam true. And here, if you press on play, then the character is going to play the animation. I think I did something wrong. Let's go back to the BP beam, and here on the static mesh, it is set, the collision preset is set to be Bullock all dynamic. So we're going to choose custom, and here on the object type, we're going to select toward static, because it has to match with the capsule trace for objects. It has to match with the settings of the object types. Here is set to be word static, so the beam also has to be word static, because otherwise it's not going to identify. So if we press play and try again, as you can see, our character is looping when we are standing still. He's walking when we are standing still. We can either do two things. We can set up a complex states here or transitions, or we can set up a blend space. So I'm going to create animation and blend space 1D. And this one is going to be pretty cool. We're going to select our skeleton, currently the one that you're using right now. If it's the UE4, then I'm going to choose this one right here. Make sure the path is the same. And I want to walk balance, idle, walk. This other one I did, I think it's not good, so I'm going to make a new one. So if we click here on walk balancing, not this one, the new one, and here as you can see you have nothing, but on the horizontal axis I'm going to type here speed, and the minimum is going to be set to 0, and the maximum is going to be set, I don't know, 400. Now we can drag and drop our beam animations. So this is the beam idle, and this is the beam forward. You can add a weight speed for it to be more smooth, but I think I don't really need it. Just 6, I think it's enough. But if you want it to be more smooth, then you can set it to be 2. So if you want it to be more smooth, then you can set it to be 2. Now going back to, alright, so let's put that blend space into work. Let's drag and drop it. Walk, balance, idle. Up and drag your ground speed. So let's test it out. If I'm standing still, then the character is going to stop. Yeah, I guess I have to set the speed of the character to, I think, 44 when he's walking the beam. So how can we do that? Let's go back to our character blueprint and get the character movement. Set max walk speed to be 44. And also the rotation rate. Set rotation rate to be 333. 333. Yeah. Let's do a little quick setting here. Let's set the speed for to be 44, this animation. And the maximum access value is going to be 50. There we go. I think I can set the weight speed to be 2. Yeah, that's very good. Now if you walk on the beam and get back to the surface, to the safe zone, then the character is not going to stop playing the animation of walking on the beam. So how can we make the character to know that he's not walking on the beam anymore? So we're going to create a timeline. So we're going to type here add timeline and double click on that. Let's set the length to be .10 or .1. Track, we're going to choose add event track. It doesn't matter. Let's just compile save, and you can close that. Now here on the event graph, we're going to connect the true to play from start, and here on the update is going to be here, and finish is going to be the execution when the character stops walking on the beam, when he enters the safe zone. So I'm going to just copy and paste this, duplicate it, because we're going to set the default values with the default settings. So we're going to connect it to finished. So as soon as the character stops walking on the beam, then this finished event is going to be executed. Then we're going to turn off this walk on beam. Max walk speed, I think it's 210. And the rotational rate is 500. So let's test it out. Also, I have to add a transition in the character animation blueprint. So all of this, we're going to go back to Alt Run. And double click on this, drag and drop this is walking beam. And if it's not equal, then we can enter the transition. So as soon as the character stops walking the beam, then we can go back to the walk run normally. Let's get back. There we go. And you can also smooth all the transition between the states. So as you can see here, the duration is going to be 0.5. I think it helps. Let's see. Yeah. It's more smooth. All right. All right. And now the next thing I want to do is just set the character to be simulated, set the body, his body to be simulated, and make him fall off from the edge, from the beam. And if I just basically step out here, and then the character just walks normally again. I don't want that. I want the character to be, I want the character to fall. So to do that, on here, out of false, I want to set simulate physics of the mesh. Take this on. And I want to set the movement mode to be flying, because I don't want my camera to go down. I want to see what's going on the top. And here I'm going to set all bodies below simulate physics. So it's going to add a little bit of stiffness and realism of the simulation. So I'm going to drag off this inbound name. I'm going to make literal name and add it to the pelvis. So adding to the pelvis is going to affect the general body parts. So we're going to check on new simulate. I think it's not set all bodies below simulate physics. It's actually set all bodies below blend weight. Set all bodies below physics blend weight. Sorry. Now we can connect that to that. Connect the mesh. Connect the ball name here. And that's it. Compile, save. And here in the physics blend weight, it's very important. We're going to set it to be 0.9. If you set it to be 0.1, then it's going to pretty much simulate all the physics of the body. And as I want the character to be a little bit more stiff, I want to set it to be 0.9. It's not gonna make that much difference, but it makes difference on the realism of the overall feeling when the character steps up. So what I've set in here, set it to be 0.8, so I can show what I mean. I think I can set it to be 1, for example. So as you can see, when you walk in here and we step out, then the character is like a jelly. He moves like a jelly when it simulates physics. But if I set it to be 2 and try to simulate physics, as you can see, the character falls like a rock. So you can pretty much have the control of how much the amount of physics should be simulated on your character. You can choose it here. So I like to be 0.9. I think it's a pretty much good value for what I need. So it's going to depend on your project, of course. But that's pretty much it. And I want to also disable the input because I don't want to move when I'm dead. And the player controller is going to be get player controller. Is going to be the local one. Compile, save. Press play. And let's see how that looks like. So basically I'm walking the beam and I basically step out. I suppose I fell. And I cannot move my camera, neither the capsule component stays in there. My camera stays in there. And that's pretty good. Now, what happens when I move or when I jump? The character just dies. As you can see, our code is pretty much being run on every take. So when I jump, basically the character understands that he fell from the beam. So to fix that, very simple. Here on the input action jump, we're going to get the can walk on beam and set it to be off. So let's play now, test it. And then when I try to jump, then the character is going to jump normally. I try to jump on the beam and nothing happens. Now the character cannot identify the beams. That's because we have to set the can walk on beam back to true. So how can I do that? Well, basically there is an event called event on landed. And this event is pretty much useful when the character touches the ground. For example, here when we jump and then the character touches the ground, that's the time when this event is going to be executed. So everything is inside here is going to be executed as soon as the character lands on the ground. So what I want to do is just want to enable this option back. So just going to duplicate this, paste it here, and can walk on beam is going to be true again. So we're going to basically be able to identify the ledges again, the beams, sorry. Now, let's see. If I jump. If I jump, then I land on the ground. Then the line trace, the capsule trace is going to be activated again. And then we can walk on the beams. And we can jump. Which is very cool. I fell. Now I have some additional animations here just for example, turn. If you're the beam, then you can just turn, which is this one right here. I have just created a montage out of it. So let's say, for example, let's type the 1 key. When I type the 1 key, my character can turn. So I'm going to play a montage. I'm going to get the character's mesh. And we're going to select animation, beam turn 180. So I can press play. Then let's say, for example, you're here, and then you can turn. You want to turn, and you don't want to step out and miss it. So just press 1, and then you can turn. Yeah, sometimes sometimes it fails, but that's okay. That's part of the game. And let's do another situation here. When the character, as soon as the character gets to the safe zone, so let's say the character, oh shit, wait. The character is, let's say the character just goes to the safe zone, then you can press 2. Sorry, select the animation. So beam forward, and you can select it here. So let's say your character is just came to the safe zone. So you can press 2, and then the character can do this animation here, almost falling. So yeah, you can place this almost falling animation here after the finished event if you want to. So when the character finishes and go to the safe zone, it's going to be playing the animation. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, comment down below, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye.